Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Alex Dean. I'm an AI strategist, customer partner at Unit8. And we at Unit8, we're a data and AI services delivery partner operating in the DACH region, or that's Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. And the one thing we love doing is helping our customers implement valuable use cases in the data, AI, and Gen AI space. So talking about Gen AI, we've been doing a lot of projects for our customers across many industries. So if that's pharma, medtech, insurance, finance, it's been quite a journey over the last few years, and we've been able to really deliver some use cases that'll boost the revenue, that'll cut costs, that has really shifted the needle in the range of millions for our customers to really get more out of the data that they have, more out of the processes that they're living on a day-to-day basis. And this is across multiple areas of our customers. So that's within the supply chain, marketing, and the sales force. If that's for finance, specifically research and development, it's quite wide range because AI has delivered some fantastic gains for our customers. Now, I always thought 2025 would be the year of AI agents. I think last year I predicted 2025 will be the year. And I must go back on that promise because one thing I realized is that a lot of organizations haven't known how to actually get started with building AI agents that can work within workflows, that can replace processes, and even have things like agentic components being able to take decisions by themselves. A lot of organizations have been scared of implementing such automations. They've been a bit confused about where to start, or a lot of CIOs have also felt like the organization has been ready for such a gargantuan task as automating parts of their business using AI agents. So this is one of the reasons why we really wanted to host this webinar today to show you what is possible already today with tools and platforms that have been designed to accelerate that process. Things like Agent Kit with Agent Builder from OpenAI, as an example, can really accelerate your journey in building these workflow automations. And we're very proud to have OpenAI with us today to show you some of the things that are possible. So let me hand over to Mark.
Thank you very much, Alex, and nice to meet you all. Very pleased to present to you today. My name is Mark Montanari. I'm a solution engineer at OpenAI since January this year, and my role is really to help those organizations and the partners organizations such as Unit8 to be able to scale solution for our clients. And building solution around agents is where we, as Alex actually was mentioning, is where we see the most of the value. We don't do only that. Most of you are extremely familiar about ChatGPT. We have an offering around ChatGPT Enterprise for any organization that want to secure the data, that want to scale employee productivity. We have Codex with like developer productivity to be able to go faster at understanding the code repository of every individuals, be able to develop new application, strengthen the SDLC, as we call that, SDLC lifecycle. And obviously agents with our agent platform. Today, we're going to double click on specific aspect of this agent platform, which is really around the visual agent builder, the chat kit, and the agent SDK that helps you to build either internal, but also obviously external solution to gain more like productivity and potentially more revenue for your organization. Next slide, please. At OpenAI since, so this is like kind of out of the press for 2 weeks ago, where we've been recognized by the Gartner for 2025 with generative AI model provider. Where it really showcase like the strength of the model, the performance, the innovation that we've been doing in the model space, but not only, and the strategy that we put in place with the latest releases that we're bringing around agents, but also for the consumer part that we have. But also it's about like the trust on different aspects that are extremely important for any enterprise organization like you, around security, governance, multimodality, and the developer experience that I was mentioning before. So those are the ones where we are leading in the criterias. And obviously the proven use cases we developed with Unit8 conjointly, or use cases that organization have been putting in place on their own, and they reported that to the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And with that, I will give you back the ball.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Mark and Alex. Hello also from my side. I'm Roman Friels. I'm a consultant and implementation strategist at Unit8. In my day-to-day business, I help our clients from strategy down to implementation in our projects. But today we want to take a look, as we know, as on the agent builder, on Agentic AI. And I mean, we read around a lot about Agentic AI. There's a lot of info out there, but I think also there's quite some misunderstanding sometimes. And therefore, we want to quickly just define what we at Unit8 see as an agent. So an agent or an Agentic AI, first of all, is an AI for us that can reason. And we, as the user, as the developer, we give it an abstract goal that it should achieve. And to achieve that goal, it can reason, as I said, it can break down that complex abstract goal into smaller tasks. And then it has two tools available, which are data connectors and actions, which will also come up later in the webinar. So data connectors, of course, can be just internal company data, internal company databases, you name it. Can also be web search, etc. And actions, of course, can be things like triggering procurement, making transactions in the company, or writing data. So this is, of course, where the big value also lies in agents, that they not only pull info and analyze things, but also act in the end on it. And then, of course, you as the one that gave the goal want to check that the results are correct and that everything has been done to your satisfaction. That is what we usually call human in the loop. So at certain very sensitive points, maybe when a big action needs to be triggered, you want to come in as a user and make sure the agent has been doing the task correctly. Good. Now that we covered what an agent is, we want to talk about how you can augment your workforce with Agentic AI. And maybe before we jump into that topic, we need to make a distinction here, because we see actually there are two kinds of Agentic AIs, which are agentic workflows and collaborative agents. But maybe before we go into those, let's start. Many of you might be coming still from classical automation. So I mean, in old systems, and they are very much still present. You're working with tabular data, with very well structured data, and of course, what is the difference there with agents? What is the increased capability? We don't necessarily have to limit ourselves anymore to structured data, but instead an agent can understand. It can understand unstructured data. It can understand images, texts, all those kind of data you have in your company that you couldn't access before. So that is what divides agents from classical automation. But then where it really divides the two kinds of agents is in the task complexity. So you have very simple tasks and very clear processes. And for those, you want an agentic workflow. An agentic workflow is a background process that just works through these very clear processes and basically does its job without you having to be there all the time and check for it. And then there are collaborative agents, which are more for very complex tasks where you beforehand don't know actually, okay, how do I approach this? How do I solve this? So you actually need to plan collaboratively with the agent. How do I solve this task? How do I handle this complexity. To give you a little bit more of a tangible feeling, what kind of processes, what kind of tasks are we talking about here? So for agentic workflow, a classic could be irregular reporting. So maybe you have some process in your company that generates a report once a month, and you will have all kinds of data sources, all kinds of smaller sub-reports that maybe need to be assembled. This is a classic task for an agentic workflow. It can pull data from all of those data sources, merge the different texts that have been provided to it, and then provide a consistent report in the end. On the other hand, collaborative agents are geared, as I said, more towards collaboration with the user. A classic example could be a sales co-pilot. So maybe you can imagine yourself to be a salesperson, and you're in a call, and the client asks this very, very specific question on the product you are selling, and the answer is very deeply within the documentation. And of course, you want to close the deal. You want to provide them a sufficient answer. One way could be to say, look, I don't know. I have to reach out after the call and send you a follow-up email. But maybe if you actually had a co-pilot, so a collaborative agent that listens in on the call and offers to retrieve the data, then you can cover another topic. It retrieves the data that you need, and you can tell it to the client. That way, you can much more effectively handle these kind of situations. Good. Now, where to start with these agents? So we see that these agentic workflows, they usually hide in very high volume and high value tasks. As I mentioned, so it could be some reporting tasks, something that happens often, but that has a certain value add to it. Also, we see a lot in companies that have silos, that these kind of cross-system workflows, they are agentic workflows really shine, because usually you have different kind of data models between different silos. So it's tough for traditional automation, for classic automation, to deal with that. And instead, the agentic workflow can bridge those kind of differences quite effectively. With collaborative agents, we see, as I said, overwhelmingly complex tasks. They really help you figure things out, structure a problem, and then break it down into smaller tasks. And of course, uncertainty in data or tasks is something that agents in general deal with much better than traditional systems. In traditional systems, you have to code for that. You have to think of each case that things could go wrong. Agents can usually deal with that to a limited complexity on their own. Good. Now, maybe one caveat to this is we will see the distinction between agentic workflows and collaborative agents. It's not that clear like I just laid it out. So you'll see, especially with Agent Builder, which we are jumping into today, that there's a smooth transition. The Agent Builder could support both agentic workflows or collaborative agents. It's very much positioned in the middle and can kind of deal in both concepts. Good. Now, what does this all mean for your AI strategy? So maybe to summarize a little bit, the strategic advantages of AI agents are really in operational efficiency, in automating all these kind of workflows that traditional automation couldn't reach so far, but that are very mundane, very repetitive, maybe that you can well automate with agentic workflows. Then, as I mentioned, flexible data leveraging. Your data, it becomes more and more clear in this age, is your gold. It's super valuable, and you have a huge repository of data that is unstructured, that could not be leveraged effectively in previous decades, but that can actually be leveraged very effectively now. And in the end, of course, employee enablement. I mean, I think each of us is probably very used to ChatGPT at this point, to collaborative agents in a way, and it tremendously speeds up certain tasks. Okay, that now what does it mean? What do you need to do then? What kind of strategic considerations come out of that? So very important is it is to make a good use case analysis. So with agents, especially with collaborative agents, the value is more fuzzy. It depends very much on how the user might use an agent. There are very different use case scenarios. So you need to be very clear. Okay, what is the actual value that can be achieved with that? Then the second point is which platform to choose for this. Again, very much relevant with today's topic. You don't want to have 10 different solutions from 10 different vendors, not only because it's expensive, but also then you don't have an integrated platform. And that is pretty much a big point of agents. You want everything to be connected, so you don't need to manually copy over data from one system to another. We call that manual tags, actually. So it's really important to choose one platform and stick to it and to do a good selection there. And of course, with all of these capabilities, especially with actions, in the end, there come considerations around governance and access control. As we mentioned, your data is tremendously valuable. You need to protect it very well. You need to handle it with the right access control, with the right governance, etc. But today we want to focus more on the actual capabilities of Agentic AI and especially of the agent builder. And for that, we brought, of course, a demo. And for this demo, I want to introduce you to a company. So I studied mechanical engineering, so manufacturing companies are very, very close to my heart. And we brought to you this example. Of course, it's not a real company, of Manuco, manufacturing company for electrical equipment. And they manufacture all kinds of electrical equipment, sensors, control units, actuators, you name it. And of course, this is a business that is usually in B2B, and especially with electrical systems, clients will have problems in operations. Could be, of course, by client error, but often it could also just be a quality control issue, and the client will then reach out to Manuco and say, look, we have a problem here, we can describe it to you, but please resolve it for us. This is really, really important. Okay, and of course, Manuco for that has an email inbox to deal with those things. And let me quickly change my screen sharing so I can show you that email inbox. Sorry, just need to find it. There we go. Good. Okay, this is, of course, again, fake data for the sake of the demo. But this we have eight emails here of clients that complain to Manuco. This one, for example, Urban Tech Components, which says, okay, look, I'm experiencing a recurring slow boot up cycle in this control unit from yours. Please help us resolve it. And of course, we built in this scenario something with Agent Builder for Manuco, because you can imagine it's a very manual process to go through these emails to find solutions for that and help the clients to actually resolve their issues. Okay, now, I mean, as I said, this will probably take a couple of hours for a skilled person to do. An agent takes only a couple of minutes, but nonetheless, I want to start the process now, and then we can, in 1 or 2 minutes, actually see the result while I explain what is actually happening in the background. So this is the agent builder, of course, and I don't want to go into the details yet because Mark will go very much into the whole ins and outs of this platform. But I think it's very important to understand conceptually what we are dealing with here, and maybe also to give you an example, this is quite easily buildable. So we have one agent, which is this support email agent. The whole point of this agent is just to go through our email inbox, retrieve the emails, and summarize the issues that clients have raised with that, which is actually doing currently. And then we have a quality control agent, which will actually go through the issues that have been raised in the email, and it will understand them. And actually, this quality control agent, it has a tool. We mentioned tools before. It has a database behind it, a simple SQL database, which actually has all the quality control issues that are known to the company, and it has a description of them, but it also has a solution of them, which is of course very important then to know for the client on how to resolve this. And finally, we have a CRM agent, a customer relationship management agent. It again has a tool, another database, which is the CRM system of this company. And this CRM system has all the customer information. So, of course, what we are interested in, okay, how much sales volume do these customers actually have with us? So we can actually prioritize, okay, there's a very big customer, has a very urgent issue, we need to address that first. And maybe the smaller customers we deprioritize to save the most of our revenue and really do an effective triage here. Good. Now it should have run through. It seems the demo gods are not kind to me today, because the workflow has stopped prematurely. But luckily, I have saved the previous conversations when I tested it before. So I will actually jump to that. Yeah, and here we have it. So as I mentioned, the first agent, it goes through the client emails, and we can see, okay, it finds the client name, and then it extracts the described issue. Then the second agent, you can also see here, okay, it really doesn't take that long, thought for 15 seconds, thought for 53 seconds. The second agent, which is the quality control agent, it looks in its database and it finds, okay, for this product, for this first email, we actually didn't find an issue. So you can see here, okay, this issue that has been described is not known to us at this point. So it's something we really need to investigate. But if we look a little bit down below, we can, for example, see here, okay, there's this email from Alpha Automation GmbH, and they reported some vibration anomaly with this control unit, and it is a known issue. We know it in our database, and we even have a solution for it. Great. So we can actually report that to the client, and then of course, as I mentioned, there's a final agent that actually has access to the CRM database, and it looked through the previous results and found out, okay, we really need to start with this client, which is Beta Industrial Solutions. They have the largest revenue with us. They are really important, and they have also an issue which is not known, not recorded at this point. So we really need to prioritize and find out what is going on there, because it is not in our quality control database. Yeah, you will see here, for example, for this client, we actually know the issue that we can resolve quite effectively then, because we already know what to tell the client. Okay, now this is, I think, a really nice demo, and it really highlights, like, this is not a very complicated workflow, and most of it has been achieved via prompting. So you can really nicely build these small solutions that automate these small agentic workflows. Of course, then you need to integrate it into your systems, and that really depends then on the systems at the specific company. If you want to have an email follow-up or write that into a database, there are different solutions imaginable. But I think this really nicely highlights, okay, you can build quite nice solutions already with the agent builder, and all that you need as a not pro user is access to these tools, which are the databases that I have talked about, which is also a connector to the email inbox that I have talked about. Good. Now with that, I think that was a nice teaser on the agent builder. But now I would hand it over to Mark, which will go much more in the details and really tell you the in and outs of the agent builder.
Thank you very much, Roman. And let me start sharing my screen. So thinking from that, I want to basically re-put in perspective like some of the elements you've seen and how we can build on that. So Agent Builder is basically part of what we package, let's say, at the agent kits within the platform. And you already saw two of those components, and we're going to look a little bit deeper in the next few minutes on those one. The first layer is really about like building your agents. Up to now, it has been a very kind of code-heavy process for many organizations to do that. That kind of obviously brings some slowness of testing and deploying that. So with the agent builder, the goal is like you get access to the different models you want, the tools, as Roman was mentioning, prompting and guardrails, etc., to build from a visual perspective the workflow that matters the most for you. The second component, and you saw it as a result where Roman was demoing like the flow at the end, is the user interface, the chat kit. So that's basically an open source kind of framework, code framework that we give to any organization to be able to plug in the backend a workflow ID or simply like the different list of agents from a code perspective to be displayed and customized as display for users. And that can be through your website, through your application, and embedded in the place that matters the most for the workflow you're working on. And the third component, we haven't touched on that so far, and it's extremely important, is being able to put evaluations, also natively called evals in the space. And it's all about like being able to observe what are the results of the workflow that you put in place, what are the answers from the model, what are the user inputting as information, optimizing, orchestrating, and that means you have way better visibility on the accuracy that you can deliver. So that can help you to calculate your ROI, but also improve the result, the speed, the cost as well of running this application. So you can scale it and ensure that it's not going to fail and it's going to deliver the right result that you might need overall. So as I was mentioning, the model before, it was really like complex orchestration and very code heavy, where the versioning was a bit more complicated. Custom code, you have to connect the different tools. The evals used for many organizations and many companies who try to implement it was a fairly manual process. So the goal is to automate this one. So the prompt optimization is quite difficult as well. So the goal with the platform here is really to move to a new space where it's going to be version, extremely visual, centralized from an administrative perspective, where you have access to all the different tools and data, the capacity to do the evals on the go, automating the prompt optimization, etc. And as I was mentioning, the user interface for displaying the information as well. So that's the first part you've seen from Roman. So I'm going to skip this slide very quickly, and I will show even more after, as we're going to do like starting from a base workflow, and we're going to build on top of that. The second part, which Roman showed you, is a chat kit. So that means it's embeddable to any interface you would want. You can customize highly. It supports obviously all the richness of features we have with the widget as well, and the reasoning, and what we call evergreen. So that means it's integrated once and you can scale it very easily, and the capabilities to add new functionalities very easily across different solution and use cases you're implementing. centralizing your the different kind of connectors. So Roman was mentioning accessing the right data. So from an administrative perspective, it's also important to be able to manage that centrally to ensure the security with potentially, for example, private API gateway, and ensuring it's overall secure on that. And that was like the top bucket I was showing earlier. So about like evals. So trace grading. So the traces are basically the logs of every single turns that the agents are doing, and being able to monitor how many tokens are being consumed, the latency, but also the accuracy of the response of the answers. So that's something I can show you after. What does it mean as kind of when you evaluate something? But also if you want to preemptively, before obviously putting a solution out there for users, you can create your own data sets, and based on different prompts and different models, etc., you can basically evaluate the performance and potentially improve those prompts to make sure it will be much more accurate and give a much better results. Coming back to one of Roman's example, being able to query the database, you want to make sure you prompt correctly the type of information, the fields that are important in the case of answering a customer, for example, or how you want to formulate this answer to the customer is extremely important. So you want to rate that, and you want to be able to see how you're evolving in terms of accuracy and avoiding obviously hallucinations. But it's also evaluating third-party models that you can also do within the platform overall. And as I was mentioning earlier, the goal is also to improve the prompt that you're going to use. So out of the box, you can ask ChatGPT when you build the agents to basically write for you the prompts. And then as you evaluate the result, you can also get it automated to improve those prompts for you. All right. So before I jump onto a demo as well, so also like extremely important on the security and compliance parts. So with the OpenAI platform, first, the data you're using is your data. So first, we never use on the enterprise kind of mindset. We never use your data to train our models. You have full customized control on, or you can customize the data retention and also decide where the data residency lands for you. You obviously, and I was pointing to that, for example, where we're speaking about connectors around control access. So we have like granular rule-based access control, the capacity to accessing the platform for those creators of workflows with SSO, and putting in place like network control, IP whitelisting, and Azure private link in case you obviously want to access some of your private data and want to make sure it's not being transiting via internet. And in terms of compliance, I think the highlight I want you to bring is like the capacity for OpenAI to bring EU data residency on the platform for at rest and for the inference as well. All right, with that, I'm just going to switch back to the visual agent builder. And the goal, there could be like a wide variety of obviously use cases you can create. So this one is about like incident reporting, manufacturing, when you have a triage agent, some specialized agent, and a summary agent. But the goal of today is to look at something that is extremely common in most organizations, which is around procurement. So this is the OpenAI platform. So I'm going to open a workflow that I've already published, but as you can see, there is big gaps in between, and the goal is to actually show you the creation steps here to show how easy it can be here. The idea of this workflow will be to give the ability for users to submit an invoice. So if I show you the invoice we're going to use, so in this case, it's a fairly simple one. We have like important points, which are like the cost, the payment and date, the description, which company, etc. And we want this workflow to process its invoice, to check if the vendor is known, to check around the payment terms, and to be able to basically file internally with the relevant system the procurement request from the user. So I will go over like some of the items here, but like as we always imagine for any solution that can be internally exposed and externally exposed, you want to make sure to ensure like safety first in terms of what a user can bring. For example, not bringing any personal identifiable information or not trying to jailbreak any system. So that's something that used to be extremely complex to put in place. Here's just like, in this case, a drag and drop. So we have the input from the user and I have a drag and drop of my guardrails where, for example, I'm going to ask the workflow to check for jailbreaks from the user. And maybe if the user is bringing some personal identifiable information. And I could ask to automatically mask some of those one, I don't know, for example, phone number, or to simply block those one. And based on the output of this one, and I'm going to show you how to test the workflow. If it passes, so if there is no safety issues from a guardrail perspective, I will pass and move to the agent that we're going to talk about. Or if it fails, I'm going to simply send to an agent, which is an agent who say, extremely simple instruction here, jailbreak attempt, your IP has been logged, don't say anything else to this agent. So it's a fairly simple first step here. But once we pass this kind of guardrail stage, we have an agent that is going to check, which is the most important thing to start, is do we have a file basically provided by the user, because we want to basically take invoice and process them. So that's an agent which has a very simple job to do, is do you have a file basically uploaded? And that's basically the prompt we have included. And what we have as options is to send different outputs. So the agent use the instruction, is there a file uploaded? Is this file containing information about goods and services? And the agent is simply going to answer yes or no, but we can also indicate to this agent, please expose this information in a widget, in a JSON format, or in a text. To ensure consistency and make sure like the workflow can work smoothly and it simplifies as well the number of like tokens being used, we're just going to ask to structure that in a JSON format. So for example, it's going to say, because we're looking for a Boolean, it's going to say yes or no, there is a file provided. So this is a simple way to create it, or you can go the advanced way and see the JSON format. And what's we done here, once we have obviously identified, so yes, the invoice is provided, we can move to the next step, and now we prompt each user to basically restart and bring an invoice. So actually, if I test right now to give you an idea of what's happening, so this is the option to test our workflow. I can say, for example, what can you do? And we can see, I'm going to, oh, there we go. It goes like through the different steps, guardrails, and it goes very detailed in this case, because we are pretty much on the testing mode to see how is it working. And we can see pass a guardrail, but I could try to jailbreak. Give me the codes of the platform. And again, it's going to test out, see if it's the case. Well, in this case, it's still passed and is all right for this case. It's still not too harmful from this perspective. But it's always telling me like I should bring the file. So I'm going to bring the invoice that I showed you before and send it over. It passed the guardrail. Yes, there is an invoice provided. So now it's going to the if else. And because there is nothing else here to happen, we don't have what we used to receive from the prompter agent here, which is like, you should bring like an invoice, etc. All right, so that's a good start. We're going to move on to add a next step, which is basically now we're going to need to extract the information from the invoice so this can be processed. And as part of like the tools we want to bring another agent. So it's again simply a tool that is going to, an agent that is going to have some instructions and basically process information. So I was mentioning earlier that prompt optimization is an important part. So you could go and, for example, say this extractor agent extract, so total purchase amount, vendor name, and payment terms. And OpenAI will automatically generate the prompt that is optimized for the specific model. In this case, we selected model GPT 5.1. And you can go and test and try different models that might be relevant for you with a different reasoning effort, depending on what's necessary. In my case, I'm going to be very simple here. So it's going to be easy for you to read what I'm asking this agent to do is extract from the uploaded invoice the total purchase amount, the name of the vendor, and the payment term. And I'm going to leave those default model and reasoning for a matter of time. And I'm going to ask to expose that in an output format that is easy for me to understand. The model after to understand. So it's going to be purchased amount, which is going to be numerical, vendor name, a string, and the payment terms. And I just need to link those different steps. And in the state here is going to say, okay, from the purchase amount, it's going to say in these variables, this information, etc., etc. So we got a long way through. What I want to show you is something that Roman highlighted is the use of tools. So in this case, it's going to be very important first when we do a procurement process to verify that the vendor in question from this invoice is a vendor that is already proved and that we have information on the payment terms we agreed with this vendor. So this agent is very specialized, has the right tools to do this kind of action. Instruction, look up the vendor in a database using lookup tool, find the standard payment terms and compare the text payment terms from what we extracted specifically here. And the tool here is an MCP server where we have as tools available, a lookup vendor basically option. And it takes as input simply the vendor name. And behind the scene, this MCP server, so in this case, it can be something already fully built in by the company or something we can build, Unit8 can build, is going to look inside your database, for example, for this information. And then the next step is going to obviously return yes, no, if the payment terms are matching, yes or no. And we're going to basically now branch out this kind of information. And the first thing we're going to be checking is like, if that doesn't mean the payment terms, we want to get a user approval. So that's going to be basically human in the loop, where we're going to say those are non-standard payment terms and simply display to the user on the interface that the invoice doesn't match the standard terms that we have, etc., etc. And if the user rejects specifically those non-standard terms, we can simply have an agent that is going to reject. I'm going to call it term, for example, that is going to simply say, explain to the user the invoice is not approved because, etc., etc. And that's very simple. We want to go fast. There is no reasoning to be needed, and we just want to put this information as text for the user. All right. So now we just want to bring the last piece, which is basically submitting, because we check that the payment terms are matching. We have extracted all this information. So we want an agent that is specialized to submit when we approve here. And when the payment terms, oops, sorry for that. When the payment terms are matching, so I'm just going to copy paste to go faster, obviously. And I'm going to name it submitter agent. Instructions are fairly simple. I'm going to say here, use the SAP Ariba tool, which is a SAP solution that basically help to submit, that helps on procurement. And we want to pass those information that we have extracted. So amount, vendor, and payment term. So let me just move that here. And I'm just going to quickly enter. Here we go. And here's payment term. Obviously, we have the color coded, so it's easy to know if we have the information or not. And obviously, because we want to submit that to this tool, we need to bring this MCP server that has been exposed and approved internally for that. So tools that we have access automatically. So client tool, the MCP server, as I was mentioning, on the OpenAI platform, you can host a file search. So you can have your own vector store, do a web search if necessary, and researching from a geographical perspective as well, do some code interpretation, etc., etc. In my case, I'm going to use MCP. Some of them are developed by OpenAI, some by third parties. In my case, it's one that we have custom, and I'm going to call it Ariba SAP. Ariba, I think is the one. Yeah. Struggling, Ariba. And obviously, you can go for full security, which is most of the cases where you want to have authentication with token or custom header, or in this case, as it's a demo, it's very simple. I'm not going to touch on the authentication piece. It's going to establish connection, and it's going to see that there is one tool that is available. So a tool is simply an action that can be done with this MCP server, which is creating a purchase request that will take amount, vendor, and payment terms as input. All right, let's see, add this one. And to finish, I want to display the final information in a widget, and I will touch on the widget a little bit later to explain how to create this one. So that's the widget we have. Color didn't show up correctly, but it should show up in a good way. So let's do a final test, and I'm going to bring my invoice, the mail to show you which step he's going through. So he's doing the guardrail. Guardrail has been passed. Now he's extracting the information. So you can see he extracted the total amount from the invoice, the payment term, the company name. He's going to say, can I check in the vendor if it's an authorized vendor with the payment terms? There is a match. And now we go out like, well, the payment terms in the invoice doesn't match the standard tools. So we are at this stage. I'm going to say, okay, let's go and approve. And that's when he's going to submit this invoice. So really with this workflow now, you don't need to have individuals to manage this kind of review, cross-referencing on your internal systems, and you can completely automate that. And now we have a nice widget that displays that James Hills is now the procurement specialist that is going to work on this one. So I'm done. This is working. I'm just going to publish this workflow. And obviously, this is a place where you see create, obviously, the workflow you want to do, but the way to expose it will be in different ways. So either you can simply copy a workflow ID and paste it on the chat kit where I'm going to show you after, or you can recover the entire code of all the different agents with all the different, as you can see, for example, here, all the different prompts that we have here, and go full blown to customize that for you if it's necessary. So for example, the one we created here is now connected to this specific chat kit visual, which is very simple here, but I'm going to show you another example. and it's going to do the same process minus all the debugging kind of information that we had before. Just give me a few seconds to process. Okay, I will come back once it's done to make sure we don't lose time. So we saw as well, to explore that, the chat kit. So this is kind of how you can customize your chat kit. Maybe gives the user the capability to choose a model picker, change the size, and maybe the color of some of the elements and the text, etc., and retrieve this code and expose it to whatever interface you want in this case. Or for the widgets, I only showed you a very simple widget, but we have a full gallery of widgets you can expose to users. For example, here, there's a much more like specific around software purchases, and you can go and customize any of them. So for example, if I come back here, if I'm correct, this is a widget we used today, for example, in this case. And as a next step is like obviously having embedded into whatever portal application you have. So here is like a very simple one with like a web map. So for example, I went to Switzerland, and it's going to be able to put me back to Switzerland and potentially give me some information. All right. And I'm going to pass, obviously there is a capabilities to do evaluation on top of that. So for example, I've been checking for all the different runs I had with this specific agent, checking if the agent is polite, if the agent has been able to retrieve the payment terms in a way I want to be structured overall. So just to finish, to show you a couple of customers who are using Agent Kit, which means Agent Builder and the visual. So those are some of our flagship clients we're using. I just want to show you 2 or 3 quick videos that show some of the creation they've done. So for example, HubSpot, which is basically an assistant to agents, human agents, to troubleshoot issues from our customers, where, for example, it's been to check customer information, knowledge base, articles, and propose a solution for the human agent in this case. Or example from the same, sorry for that. This client is like doing like some with the sale of obviously food products. So in this case, it's like how to optimize sales of ice cream specifically, where you're going to retrieve information and create strategies for those clients for like with improving those sales. Or the third one, which is like much more aligned to what we've seen here around procurement, is going to do the same, adding license, doing a vendor lookup, checking potential internal prices. But as you can see, this is fully embedded to an internal product or an external product for the user, for the client.
Nice, Mark. Thank you so much for these demos. They have been super exciting. And the one thing that excites me most, actually, for what I've seen today, is that we have a platform that gives us all the tools we need to be able to do this properly, with evaluations, with frameworks, with guardrails, where we can make sure that the users don't accidentally leak information as part of that. And that's really part of the things that have been missing so far in the game to be able to take this seriously. So with the agent kit and all the capabilities that come with it, finally we have a platform that enables building agents with security in mind, with the ability to protect our users, our business, but still automate them in the same stroke. And we've got some really good questions in the Q&A, and I want to give them a chance to actually get answered. So I'm just going to quickly go through them from sort of the first question onwards. And this was from Antonius, talking about sort of adjusting temperature and making sure that the agents keep on doing the same thing. Yeah, I think that's really where he wants to go with this question, and making sure they're quite consistent. in how they operate. So that's, I think, the question in the room. How do we make sure that agents are consistent in how they operate? How can we control their stability?
I can take a quickly on that. I think a big part of it is obviously selecting the model that's more like the use case you have. And second is a big part is about prompting. For every model, we release the prompting guide. And when, as you saw, like I could create a prompt automatically, it is going to follow this prompting guide, but being able to be very specific in your prompting is going to help on that. You can prompt to be more creative if necessary, but I guess in most cases, you will want to be consistent on that.
And that's really, so picking a model, picking the amount of thinking that's supposed to go in there, because you can pick and choose the level of thinking you want. And important, we've got the evaluation framework, so we can actually have a look at which ones worked and didn't work from an evaluation perspective as well. And let's have a look at the next question, which is a good one by Fabian. Yeah, so this is fantastic. Yeah, and yeah, of course, we've got the fully automated workflows, but the workflows that are initiated by a user, wouldn't it be great to have them available straight away in ChatGPT Enterprise?
I guess it's about as well for me on that. So you can see we're already going to some degree in that direction, where we released during Dev Day the ChatGPT apps. We have like a first component that has been around here, which is the custom GPTs. So it's only a matter of time where you will be able to expose this one, because we really see ChatGPT and ChatGPT Enterprise as your kind of operating system for productivity overall. So it's only a natural next step. Yeah.
So it's a matter of time. And while it's a matter of time, Moz, do you want to share something with the crowd?
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Moz, Tech Director at Unit8 for Unit8. So I think like OpenAI is bringing amazing stuff. And I mean, like while you wait, you can also like, we have kind of an initial solution that with Unit8 Wizard, you can already like take the outputs of the agent vendor and directly securely integrate them in your infrastructure. So you can also connect it behind ChatGPT as a MCP server or as a custom GPT. But again, like it's a decision, would you wait, which is probably coming soon. I'm back to Mark, but or you want to go right ahead, and then here we have the Unit8 Wizard if you're interested.
Yeah, so we actually figured out how to make them available via an MCP in the ChatGPT environment. But so as a workaround until OpenAI catches up with us, sorry guys, we're running ahead. We can help you out. Now, there's another interesting question that I can't be able to publish right now, so I'm just going to repeat it from the board from Deva. So Deva was asking about a question when it comes to having agents orchestrate themselves, and this is actually something we've built in the past in a couple of scenarios where we've got sort of a central brain that figures out and plans the activities and figures out how to execute that plan. So less sequential. Oh, thanks. Less sequential and more LLM orchestrated. I'll maybe throw it first at Mark and then at Moz, because I know Moz will have an answer.
So, are many agents to orchestrate this? Oh, yeah. So obviously for agents, you want to give like specific tools with instruction. What we see is like always important to bring a trio of agents if you know that there is quite a lot behind the scene. The example I showed you is a fairly deterministic workflow, but it could be done as like more non-deterministic. So kind of like triage agents would be like a good starting point. And usually you want to give them around 15, let's say 15 to maybe 20 kind of directions. So different agents, they can provide the information. I don't know on your side, Moz, if you have more insights.
Yeah, so I think it's also a matter of scale and like the design pattern you want to follow. I mean, of course, let's imagine you want to call a lot of different tools and orchestrate them. Of course, you can create them into that's the native way. And I mean, it's nice, it's versioned, it's deployable very easily. But maybe also at a certain scale, you want to put like maybe a lot of connections behind like a centralized proxy layer, let's say like an integration layer, which is doing all of the orchestration for you. Like Unit8 was some example, but I won't upset that right now. I think when you go to the scale of having a lot of different tools and agents, I think it's also very important just think about things like service discovery, because maybe you don't want to write prompt for every possible thing happening, but you want to actually have service discovery that the planner understands that, for these things, I can use this and this tool, and I will call them in this order and get the task done. It's about encapsulation. How much of that you want to hide and have as kind of a proxy layer invoked, or you want to have them kind of flat and you can directly kind of design them in Agent Builder. Both are correct, and it's just a question of design principle and scale at the end of the day.
Yeah. So in the end, it's all possible, you know, and we're more than happy to help you pick the right architecture that's going to support your needs. And with that, it's 5 o'clock. This has been absolutely fascinating, and I am super excited about 2026, to be honest, because now we have the tools and the capabilities to really hit the road running with not only automating some workflows using agents, but actually also starting to look into the more agentic capabilities. The autonomous agents are the next evolution that are going to be twisting our heads to figure out how we can make them happen. Our businesses are going to change. How we think is going to change. How we design our business processes. In some cases, it's not just about automating a process. It's actually about completely redesigning it from the ground up with the capabilities that we have right now. So I am super excited about what 2026 has to offer.